Hello students, this lesson is on hyperbolas and graphing them and writing the equations. So let's look at our first example. When you're given an equation, I want you to state the center, I want you to graph it, and then I want you to state the line of symmetry that is on the major axis. Alright, so let's look at this first example. We have x plus 1 quantity squared over 25 minus y minus 3 quantity squared over 9. Okay, so the first thing that I want you to recognize is that this is going to be a horizontal hyperbola, meaning it is opening on with the x-axis. So it's going to be opening left and right. And we know this because the leading variable is an x value. If the leading variable was a y value, then it would be opening up and down. So that's the first thing that we know. The second thing is that our center is based on our HK, which would be here and here. And remember, you always take the opposite of that. So the center is at -1, 3. Okay? Now, this is how we're going to graph it. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to graph our center. So at -1, 3, our center is right here. Okay? Then what we're going to do is we're going to take the square root of the denominators. The square root of this, the square root of 25, is 5. Okay, so what that means, that is the distance from the center out to the vertex on the in the x direction. So we're going to go left and right 5. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we're going to put our point. Now this is where the hyperbola is actually going to be opening from, and then we're going to go back 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, but we need to get our asymptotes in order to draw the correct hyperbola. So we're also going to need to take the square root of 9. The square root of 9 is 3. So from the center, we're going to count up 3 and down 3. Okay, so whatever variable that is under, that is the direction that you count. Okay? And then what we're going to do is we're going to kind of make a box with these blue dots. So it's kind of like this. And then the asymptotes are going to go through the diagonals of that rectangle. So let's go ahead and try and draw in the asymptotes. I'm going to try and draw a straight line, but of course I don't have a straight edge. So these are my asymptotes. And it's important to have those on there because that's going to be how you draw your hyperbola. So starting again, always double check. I'm starting on the x, going in the x direction. So here's my x-axis. So it's opening to the left and the right. So you're going to start with this vertex right here, and you're just going to curve it to get it close to these asymptotes. Okay, so again, it's hard for me to draw on here, but you'll get the idea. Okay, and so there is your hyperbola graphed. Now the last thing that they want is they want you to state the line of symmetry. Okay, well the line of symmetry, I want you to think of it like this. It's going to cut the hyperbolas in half. So the line of symmetry would be this line right here, which the equation for a horizontal line is y equals, and then whatever that is going through, which is 3. Okay, so I've got my center, I've got my line of symmetry. Go ahead and label that. We'll label that just LOS for line of symmetry, and then we've got our graph. Alright, so this next example, why don't you go ahead and pause the video and try and graph it on your own, and then when you're ready to check your answer, go ahead and press play again. Okay, so here is what you should have gotten for your graph. The center was at -2, 3, and then it's going to open up and down because the leading variable is y. The line of symmetry is at x equals -2. This time it's a vertical line that cuts the hyperbola in half. So I just remember that the equation for a vertical line is x equals -2 because it goes through the x-axis. Okay, so hopefully you got that right. Alright, for example 3, we have 9y squared minus 18y minus 16x squared minus 32x equals 151. So what we recognize is that this is not in standard form, so the first thing that we want to do is we want to get it in standard form. Okay, so we're going to complete the square. We have to divide out the 9. So then we have y squared minus 2y. We're going to complete the square, so go ahead and leave a space. Then we're going to divide out the -16. So we'll have x squared, but then we'll have a plus 2x with a space. Then we're going to leave 2 more spaces, and it's equal to 151. Okay, so complete the square. Take half of -2, it's -1, square it is +1. Remember, you're going to balance it with 9 times 1, which is 9, so we need to put a -9 here. And then half of 2 is 1, square it, you get 1. But when I multiply it, it's a -16, so I balance it with a +16. Okay, so then I'm going to take 9. This is going to factor to be y minus 1, quantity squared, minus 16 times x plus 1, quantity squared. -9 plus 16 is 7. And it equals 151. But then we're going to move this 7 to the other side, so we're going to subtract 7. We have 9 times y minus 1, quantity squared, minus 16 times x plus 1, quantity squared, and that's going to equal 144. Okay, but a hyperbola needs to be equal to 1, so we're going to divide everything by 144. And then 9 goes into 144 16 times. 16 goes into 144 9 times, so let's rewrite this. We're going to have y minus 1, quantity squared, over 16, minus x plus 1, quantity squared, over 9, and that's equal to 1. Okay, so I want you to take this equation and I want you to graph it on your notes and then move on to the next example. Alright, for this next example we're going to work backwards. So we're given the graph and now we want to write the equation. Alright, well to do this, the first thing that you're going to do is write down what your center is. Okay, so our center is right here. And that's -1, 1, 2, 3. So our center is at -1, 3. Now notice that it opens up and down, so we know that we're going to lead with the y. And the number that goes with y is the 3, so we're going to do the opposite of that, which is -3 squared. We know we're going to have a minus because it is a hyperbola. And then we're going to have the x part of it, so x plus 1 squared. And then we know that it equals 1. So the only thing left to do is to fill out what the denominators are. So in the y direction, from the center to the vertex, count how far you had to go. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then just remember that that 7 needs to be squared. So this distance is 7, but we're going to square it, so underneath here this is going to be 49. Okay? Then we're going to count how far we had to move in the horizontal direction, which would be out to here. And I can tell that because remember, this would make a box all the way around, and that's where my asymptotes come from. So count how far you had to get going in the horizontal direction, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then you would need to square that, so underneath here you would have 100. Okay? And one thing that you can do, since you're sitting at home, you can go ahead and type this equation into Desmos. Remember, Desmos, you don't have to have the y by itself. So you could type this in to check your equation. Of course, we don't always have that luxury. You might be able to get it on your phone, I'm not sure. Alright, so there's the equation. Okay guys, that's it for this lesson. Come to class ready to work.